Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Smart Money. Now, this week on Smart Money, we celebrate Mother's Day. On Mother's Day this weekend, diligent financial planning will help us, of course, ensure smooth sailing through every stage of life, and that's what we're going to talk about. Retirement will go well if you have an adequate emergency corpus, life and health covers in place. Whether you're a mother or not, you need to get all of this sorted. So let's get our guest on board, Vivek Bajaj, co-founder StockEdge and eLearn Markets. Vivek, thanks a lot for joining in. I want to start, of course, by asking you about the importance of, financial planning for mothers. I mean, most of the decisions generally, right, are taken by the men in the family. So it's kind of patriarchal in that sense. But now things are changing. So mothers or women who make the money also decide where to spend the money and where to invest it. So what is the significance now of financial planning for mothers?
Good evening, Mother Sonia. This is a very important topic we are discussing today, and I want to highlight a lot of things which will be very relevant for every one of us. I want to start with a small data, and I was able to get a lot of data with respect to US demographics. I think in India, we are still trying to figure out how to get these data sources from households. Almost 46% of financial planning, household planning, is done by women in US. And India, informally, we all know our mother and how they have been managing financials of our family. So yes, inward finances is managed by women, and outward finances, which is more external oriented assets and liability, that is obviously has been managed by men. But I think the structure is changing as more urbanization is happening, more working women are leading this entire new growth of India story. I think this whole story is changing, and women are also becoming very proactive. In fact, there was a data a couple of days ago that in the last 3 years, mutual fund investment, women participation has grown significantly.
Got it. Vivek, I think this discussion assumes a lot more importance, not if you're a mother or a woman, but also because of what's happening with the gender pay gap, right? I mean, India is still very, very low, you'd have to say, on the gender parity issue. And that makes it even more important for women to plan their finances better. Because they are not making as much money as a man would in the same job. So in that context, what are the strategies that women or mothers need or should use to build a strong financial foundation?
Well, I think this is not just an India story. Even in US, I saw a data which says that if men make 100 rupees, $100, then women make around $82. So the gender income, unfortunately, in parity is a global phenomenon. Now, men are typically more impulsive buyers also. So we tend to spend also more. I know women also loves to shop, but I think from a discipline perspective, women have more discipline. So the net savings, if you do the balance sheet, the net saving of a woman, even though with a lower income, will be far better than what we men typically go to.
Okay. So, there are different ways of building a strong financial foundation, and you've helped us with a step-by-step approach. So let's take that one by one, right? The first thing is to create a budget. Now, it's very important because there are some rules here and they help you make proper financial decisions. There's the 50-30-20 rule. Tell us a little bit about that, and what are some of the key steps in order to create a budget and then take your financial decisions?
Well, I think budget has been a very prelim understanding during our academics also. And this is a rule globally which is followed: 50, 30, 20. 50% of your income should go for essential expenditures like your household expenditure, which you typically need to live a normal lifestyle. And 30% should go for discretionary spending. If at all you want to have dinner outside, once in a while you can have it. If you want to buy something extra for yourself once in a while, that should not be more than 30%. And 20% should ideally be for savings. Now, in this new world it's a more of an EMI-driven world we are living in. So we obviously want to increase our lifestyle by increasing our spendings, and we are borrowing as well. So there is always a caveat that don't borrow for consumption, borrow for asset building. Now that 20% which goes for the savings actually can be parked to repay the debt or the EMIs which you are holding to build an asset. Definitely this is the textbook, but seldomly followed. People get again impulsive thanks to online purchases and thanks to impulse which is coming inside all of us. So the more we control our impulses, the better we are able to save. And I clearly see this in my family, that the women in our family are much more sensible in saving at the end of the day.
Okay, and saving also means investing, right? I mean, that's another form of saving for your future. Got that. But what about creation of an emergency fund? Given that, nowadays, of course, an emergency fund is much needed, because you don't know when a situation like a pandemic may arise and suddenly, you don't have a proper job situation or an income stream. How much of your money or your salary should be in an emergency fund, and at what point do you create this emergency fund?
Yeah, so emergency fund is at any point of time you should have that. So if you have started earning some money and obviously you are saving some part of that money, so ideally go with the maths which we have discussed, 50%. So 50% is your essential expenditure. So at least 6 months of your essential expenditure should be your emergency fund. So when I start making money, say I make only 20,000 rupees a month. That's a typical starting salary of anyone at a clerk level. So 20,000 rupees a month, 50% of that 10,000. So obviously your expenditure will be linked to your earning. So 10,000 into 6 is like 60,000 you should have. So first target should be, let's save that 60,000 as early as possible, and then think of getting into discretionary or any kind of savings in further. So as you earn more, your personalized inflation also goes up. I have this concept called personalized inflation. So the concept of inflation, which is universal, where people say that there's a 6% inflation, 12% inflation, but people are not taking into account that as our income grows, our aspiration values goes, our lifestyle betters. So all of us have personalized inflation, which tends to around 14 to 15%. So as your income is growing, your personalized inflation is growing. So you have to take care of your discretionary spending, which should be 6 months of your 50% of the savings which you have.
Actually, that's very important, and that's the first time I'm hearing a term like that, personalized inflation. Those are the hidden expenses, right? I mean, as we grow older, our lifestyle gets better. At least we hope that our lifestyle would get better. So there's more inflation attached there. Thank you for teaching us something new, or teaching me something new today. But tell me, in an emergency fund, so you said, 6 months of your expenses should be in an emergency fund. What do you do with that money? Do you invest it in a liquid fund and keep it in an FD, keep it in a corporate FD? What do you do with those savings?
Corporate FD is definitely no, because there is a tenure of corporate FD and you can't do a premature of that corporate FD. FD, again, there's a problem that you can keep a FD for 1 year, but if you need fund today, you need it today. So obviously they'll deduct some charges and they'll pay you lesser interest based on the tenure you have kept the money. Liquid fund, I think, is the most obvious thing in today's world, where you can just buy Nifty ETF or liquid Bs from exchange. I think that's the best thing. Keep that money aside with an assumption that you may need it tomorrow morning.
Okay, so you have created an emergency fund and you can put that money into a liquid fund so you can use it whenever you require. That is the meaning, the definition of an emergency fund. There are a couple of other things that you need to do. Reduce your debt, right? So keep your debt profile, debt or your leverage really low, and improve your credit score. Tell us a little bit about this as well.
Credit score, as you know, that it has become the heart of economic activity in India now and globally. And India, it has picked up so well because our future earning will decide what kind of lifestyle we want to live today. So one needs to be 100% wary of the credit score. And typically I've seen that women, they don't really know about this credit score. So please do read. There are enough literature online. There are YouTube videos where people talk about credit score. So to maintain a healthy credit score will give you a leverage for a better leverage at all if you need in future, because you will need money as EMI, and you will have to maintain a good credit score so that your future expenditure against the capital is least. So how to maintain a credit score? Timely repayment, as low borrowing as much as possible, and then simple things like pay your telephone bills on time, right? It may sound like that 400, 500 rupees a month or 1,000 rupees per month, even if I miss 2-3 days, it's okay. No, it's not okay, because every amount due to anyone from your side in this country will ultimately affect your credit score.
Okay, that's very important. 2 questions I get asked quite often by mothers is that, A, at what point should I start investing for my child? Should I start as soon as they are born, or should I wait a bit? And B, what are the different tools that I should use? Should I invest for my child in my own account, or should I create a separate account for him in which I put a separate money in mutual funds? So these are two questions I get asked very frequently. What are your responses to both?
The most logical will be that yes, start immediately. But let me tell you, practical thing that it is not possible to start immediately. I think you let the child grow to a certain age, then your sensitivity towards long-term saving for the child will come. Because initial 1 to 3 years, you have to spend a lot of money to raise the child, right? And I don't want to be in that camp which says that don't spend today and just save everything for tomorrow. Oh, we have to live a good life today. We have to give the good lifestyle to our newborn child. So maybe 3-4 years henceforth, when the child settles, you are okay overall, because first 3 years are kind of very critical. Thereafter, you can start planning savings. And the best way to save, a very raw way to save, is a bank account, recurring bank account. And that's the most simple way to start, because you need a bank account anyways in the name of child, and your children can have a minor bank account where you will have control on that bank account. And thereafter, parking some money in mutual fund, not necessarily in their name. Maybe you just, whatever investment you are doing in your name, you can have an Excel sheet where you are allocating that, okay, I'm doing SIP of say 20,000 a month. 2,000 is meant for my kid. You can segregate it in your internal database rather than, opening a minor account in a mutual fund in the early stage. But once your kid become more than 10-year-old, I think that's where you should start thinking of giving their own account to them, because that's the first training or tuition of financial planning which you are giving to your kid. So till 10, I think you can do it in your own name and thereafter transfer.
Okay, that's very helpful, and helpful for me on a personal level as well. I take your point entirely. Raising a child is not only tough, it is an extremely expensive procedure these days. So you have to plan well in advance. But let's do one thing. Let's take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. For all you moms, young or old, single or married, we've got you covered in terms of your financial planning. Coming back in just a bit.